A major victory for President Obama's Affordable Care Act and for millions of Americans who rely on tax credits to pay for it. This was the reaction outside the Supreme Court earlier today. Hi, everyone. I'm Vladimir Duthiers.
And I'm Christine Johnson. In a 6-3 decision today, the Supreme Court ruled people in all states are eligible for Obamacare tax subsidies, even in the states that rely on the federal exchange.
Now, here to discuss the key points of the court's decision is CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid. Paula, thanks for being with us.
Can you pass me?
So, Paula, what did the justices actually decide?
They're telling people that if you live in a state that decided not to set up its own healthcare exchange and instead you had to rely on a federal exchange, that you are still eligible for a subsidy if you need financial assistance in order to afford your insurance. Said another way, if you like your subsidy, then you can keep your subsidy. Now, the man who brought this case, he was arguing that the statutory language says that you can only get financial assistance if you get your insurance from an exchange set up by the state. He was hoping the Supreme Court would agree with him because he lived in a state that didn't have an exchange. Therefore, he would lose his subsidy, wouldn't be able to afford insurance, and then would get an exemption. But Chief Justice Roberts, in this decision, said the spirit of this law was to improve the marketplace for health insurance, and this decision continues that.
Paula, who are the winners here? Who benefits actually from this?
There's a lot of winners here today. First of all, the president. This is, of course, one of his signature achievements, the Affordable Health Care Act. The people who receive subsidies, they're certainly winners. And also Republicans. It's a lot easier to attack Obamacare while the law is intact. It would have been much harder if this decision had gone the other way, and they would have been tasked with trying to clean up the mess that would have resulted. Now, of course, there were some, I don't want to call them losers, but they weren't winners, and they include Chief Justice Scalia. And he issued a biting dissent where he said, words no longer have meaning if an exchange that is not established by a state is established by the state. What he's basically saying there is, look, we can't infer intent. We need to go by the specific language in the law. And things can, get difficult down the road if we follow this precedent of trying to interpret intent as opposed to going with the specific words in the law.
Paula, this is the second time that Obamacare has been to the Supreme Court. We know that there's another legal challenge out there. What is that?
There's a few other legal challenges out there, but nothing is significant enough that should make it back to the Supreme Court. It appears that the Affordable Health Care Act has passed 2 tests at the Supreme Court, and it is unlikely to see another one.
Paula, we know that there is another ruling. A lot of people are waiting to hear what the outcome is, and that is same-sex marriage. What is the latest that we're hearing on that?
Well, we don't know if it'll come down tomorrow. We do expect more opinions tomorrow. The court could also issue some opinions on Monday as well. And we know that the court has 1, possibly 2 questions to answer. The first is whether or not the Constitution prohibits bans on same-sex marriage. And if the court decides that it does not, then do states that do not have gay marriage, do they have to recognize gay marriages that were performed in other states? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. A lot of people think, though, this might be another Roberts opinion, because if you're the chief judge and you're in the majority, you get to write the opinion. That gives you the opportunity to make it a very narrow, very specific ruling.
Paula Reid in Washington. Paula, thanks so much.